Hello, good morning. It's so lovely to be here and it's very nice to meet all of you. So my name is Tessa Borrenberghs and I've been a student at the LUCA School of Arts. I've been studying a Master of Product Design. And somehow I became a fashion designer, so I will explain you today how that journey went. Entrepreneurship has been actually a very long story in my life, even further longer than I ever expected. I just remembered when you were introducing me that I was selling drawings on the playground in primary school with paper money that I created on my own. And I had to think about it because it is indeed the topic of today, that creatives aren't always very entrepreneurial, and I somehow had already very entrepreneurial fingers, as we would say in Dutch. So yeah, today I will explain what I do and how my journey has been for so far. So today I'm known as Borrenberghs, which is my last name. In Dutch we say Borrenberghs, English people say Borrenberghs, it's all the same. So, but we say Borrenberghs. Borrenberghs is actually a sustainable fashion brand, a luxurious fashion brand, and I work with a lot of celebrities in Flanders, in Brussels, mostly in Antwerp. And it has been quite a journey, which is very interesting. So, most people, and I just labeled myself as a fashion label, but actually, for me, Borrenberghs is an experiment. So I actually move through the field as a certain approach. That approach is actually very different than most other fashion designers. It will all become clear when I will tell you more about my background, but today I'm moving around as an ongoing experiment. I'm trying to reshaping the fashion industry for the better, and I try to find solutions wherever which problem ever bumps into my journey. I try to find solutions for it in the fashion industry, mostly about finding a balance of well-being, as we know that the fashion industry isn't a very healthy industry at the moment, because it has been very polluting. It hasn't been a safe industry in the supply chain and so further. Also about sustainability, also innovation and individuality. So this is what I'm known for. It's actually, so you would say most of the fashion brands, they have an HQ or a shop. I am Borrenberghs, I'm just a one business person, so wherever I go, my business is coming with me. And wherever I go, Borrenberghs is offering a tangible space for people to reflect, to think about what they're doing now, to be inspirational, to explore new perspectives and activate their innovative thinking. So, everything will become more clear, but I will just tell you my background education. So, I've been studying in secondary school top handball, which is completely different. But I somehow found it very important to say, because this is why I developed a very thick skin and a lot of discipline, let's say. And I always had like a little bit of an interest in fashion, but I think when you introduce it to your parents, they're kind of scared, like, oh, fashion, it's very narrow. And here in Belgium, we have a very specific school, which is the Antwerp Academy. It's worldwide known for one of the best fashion schools in the world. And I really wanted to go there, but my parents told me, like, no, that's not an option. And I'm actually very happy that they did, because it's a very narrow industry, and we have a lot of fashion designers. And I always, even when I was a little kid, I always tried to find a way, like, how can I do things differently? If I graduated at the Fashion Academy, then it wouldn't have been the same story as I've been telling today. So my mom introduced me to LUCA School of Arts, and she saw that I was very creative and all round, in all levels. So product design, of industrial design, was the best solution. How do I explain industrial design? Well, I always tell people I can create everything except towers, buildings, and bridges. For the rest, I can create kind of almost everything. So I've been doing a master's, which is in total the education was 5 years. But I felt like, okay, for an entrepreneur, I kind of need more experience to start an entrepreneurship or to go in the field. So I did some extra education, sustainability, business management, and fashion sustainability in the luxury sector. Why these two extra courses? Because in 2018, in my first master's year, I had the opportunity to go to an international internship in Copenhagen, and it really shaped my way of being, the humanity they had in Copenhagen, and the sustainability. It really shaped my trajectory, because in 2018, I don't know if you can all remember, but sustainability was a very boring subject. Everybody was thinking about beige or gray socks. Like, sustainability is something we don't like, or it's very new, it's not a very sexy topic. And in Copenhagen, they really introduced me that it's actually a very normal way of being. So for me, I came with that idea back to Belgium. And before I went to the internship, I was still laughing at my mom with her organic lemons. She was saying like, oh, I bought these lemons at the bio shop, they're more organic, and everybody was laughing at her. And then when I came back, I looked at her and I was like, okay, I understand your organic lemons right now. So it was a funny little story. And afterwards, I went to another internship, which is in a Belgian fashion house, because for so far, I wanted to go in fashion, but I had zero experience in fashion. So I went to a voluntary internship, and they actually taught me the way of how everything can be customized. It's a Belgian fashion house known for working with the royal family, and they do a lot of customization, and it's actually a beautiful process of creating things very product-wise and more measured to the people. So both of those experiences has shaped me, and today I operate as Borrenberghs, so my brand, but also as a sustainability consult. I help other brands too to become more sustainable. For me, sustainability is in the business model. So it's not that I help them just find more sustainable fabrics, it's like more in the core of the business. Also as a creative project manager, because I'm an all-round problem solver, I try to help people who develop projects to get it more to the point. And lectures, workshops like today, for example, and all things creative. So that was a big introduction. So, and today, I am an entrepreneur, this is why I'm here. A Belgian industrial designer, passionate about fashion, interior design, but also services and systems. Member of the Limburg 6, which is a little story I will explain later, and also nominated for Emerging Talent in the Belgian Fashion Awards. So how did I get there? So we have the Limburg 6. I don't know if anyone knows the Antwerp 6. It's a group of graduated fashion designers from the Fashion Academy, but it's like 20 years ago. It was kind of time for a new revolution, or a new way of a new wave move, whatever you want to call it. So the press called 6 new designers as the Limburg 6 from Limburg, so it's the other side of Belgium. And I got one of them. And this was marked a few months ago, so, and now I've been 3 years into entrepreneurship, so it's quite special to be known for this, and we're just at the beginning, but it will probably become something big in a few years. But the difference between the Antwerp 6 and the Limburg 6 is that we're not all fashion designers. Because I call myself an industrial designer in the fashion industry. We also have a stylist. We also have actually a fashion business consultant. But the point is that we're actually really close friends and that we help each other, because in entrepreneurship, and especially in the fashion industry, because it's such a toxic industry, it's very important to share the process with each other and to get tips and to help each other out, to stand straight, because otherwise it's very hard to maintain in the job. So let's talk about my brand. This is what my brands look like. It's very, I know, most people are going to say, like, who's going to wear that? Like, it's very nude. But what I actually want to achieve is to get women a bit more comfortable with their body, which is a very, I know, it's a very stereotypical sentence, but I really try to get them more comfortable in their body, not just with the garment, but with a real construction. So for me, my brand is a philosophy of mindful creation, the art of creating feminine minimalism. The essence resonates in a delicate balance of well-being, sustainability. This is what I told you later on. And my style is a little bit Belgian Danish because of the internships. I have like the Danish DNA really got into me, and I really became almost like a local when I'm there. So it's really nice, and I can really see it back in my style. But also like the 90s, and it's actually, like I told you before, it's more like an experiment to redefine fashion, to get it, actually to make people question, and mostly the other entrepreneurs in fashion, like to question themselves, like, what are we doing? Is it the right approach? Is it the good way that we're doing it? Do we need to follow the traditional ways? It's actually more in this kind of way that it's an experiment, because I'm testing all the ways out, or other ways, or other approaches, to see what's the most sustainable, the most durable, and then I actually communicate it to other designers to let them know, like, this is maybe a better approach for your business, this is maybe more helpful, and this is more responsible. So this is actually what I'm trying to achieve, underlining or business-wise for my brand, but for the customer, it's more this story, because I have to represent some kind of image, so it's the outcome of it. So, the timeline. So, in 2020, January, I graduated, and I don't know if you still remember, but we had like a kind of COVID thingy going on. But so I thought, like, okay, I graduated in January, let's take 1 month off. Like, I want a little bit of vacation after 5 years of studying, of course. And then the whole country went in lockdown. I was like, okay, so what is next? What am I gonna do now? There are like no jobs. Just a little detail, at that moment, I had no intention of starting my business at that moment. I was like, okay, let's work 20 years somewhere, get a little bit of a wallet, a little bit of money together, and then I will start my own business. At that point, I had, on my own, I think maybe 10 years of sewing experience, because, I don't know if you still remember, as I told you, I wasn't allowed to go to fashion school. So, as a very stubborn, creative person, I tried to find my way to stay in touch with fashion by going to school. I started sewing, and then at 10 p.m. I started studying until 12 p.m. for school, and then I had to go, had to wake up at 6 a.m. to leave, and then again full day of class, and it was, yeah, let's say I wasn't the best student. Well, for me it was very important just to receive good grades, or just good enough, but that I still could live through my passion, which is fashion, every single day, and to create a very good portfolio at the end of the day. So at that time, the only thing I knew, like, okay, I have a master diploma, I can sew, and that's it. But in the meantime, we also have social media, and I have been posting pictures about the things I've been sewing, and all these kind of little creations that I was making, and people kind of remembered it. So at one point, I got 1,000 messages. Hey Tessa, can you make masks? Because there's like an epidemic going on, and we need fabric masks and all these kind of things. So I was doing these masks, and at one point I was saying, like, okay, I can't do this without legal things, you know? So this is how my business was born. I was making these stupid masks for everyone. I've been making between 3,000 and 4,000 masks in around May or June. So it was kind of a very non-expected way of starting a business, but I guess in a crisis, you have no idea. And then I was thinking, like, okay, when the wave and the popularity of the masks was going down, I'm gonna start my first collection without any experience in business, without any know-how. It was time to start it, to start the dream. And the first collection was sold out, so that was quite nice. And then in 2021, the first collection, by the way, was in September. So then months went by, and then out of nowhere, sustainability became a very interesting topic. Everyone was running, everyone was jogging, everyone was taking care of themselves, buying organic food locally, and then a Belgian celebrity came to me and said, like, oh, I want to wear your designs on television. And I was like, okay, this is incredible. So this is how the popularity started to grow. So my creations started to, and one of a sudden it was just everywhere. It was on this celebrity, on that celebrity, all over Flanders, and I had no idea what was going on, but because I was sustainable and it was locally produced by me, because there was no, all the fabric supply chain was blocked in Corona time, if you still remember. So there was no way of producing it somewhere else, and I was able to sew myself. So everything was produced locally, and this is how the popularity started to grow very organically. In 2022, I was still sewing everything by myself. Like, I've been sewing the last 3 years, 14 hours a day, almost every single day. And it has been going on, just creating collections, lots of press. The press, they loved me for some reason, which is really nice. And the celebrities and the clients, it was just keep on going. But yeah, of course, at some point, as every entrepreneur, you kind of feel like, okay, 14 hours a day, it's too much of just sewing, and you also need to be non-creative in business. You have to think at the logical ways as well. Sometimes you have to put your stubborn creativity aside and just think about how to commercialize things. Maybe sometimes, I can remember from my education, the word commercialize, they didn't like it. So, and I was like, you have to kind of do that in order to grow some parts in your own way. So in 2022, I was thinking more about these questions, like, okay, how can this go further? Because if I continue to start sewing 14 hours a day, I will get possibly a burnout or something else. So I've been trying to Google, searching, networking, but yeah, it never stopped. So there wasn't much time for it, but yeah, so I had to keep on going. And I have been growing and growing and growing, and now we're 2023, and since 2 months, I think, I finally have the time to really execute my scale-up plans, my future plans. Is so really the business and the marketing strategy, because the last 3 years I could spend the creativity, the working ethics, but now it's time to scale up, so this is where we are at the moment. Okay, so here is a little bit of just a small slide. I've been in the press for some reason. I don't know how, I never asked them, but I get almost every week a mail in my mailbox like, Tessa, do you have something for us? And for somehow, I was just everywhere in the press, which is really nice. I think it's just because I really push through, I'm consistent and sustainable, and I really try to make an impact. But for the rest, I just think like, I'm just doing my job, so I have still no idea why I'm so much in the press. But it's also, it's really nice. I must say that I'm very lucky as a small entrepreneur. And then the celebrities, so I've been on television, red carpets, album covers, all these kind of kind of things. And all the journey started actually thanks to her. This is Jennifer Hele, as a very funny actress. And she really started to wear my designs a lot. And yeah, I could never be at the same position without her, so it's really nice. So, and this is me. So we have different facets of how I get in the press. So we have the brand, we have through the celebrities, but we also have like me, the sustainable fast fashion fighter, or some people say that like they call me the sustainable queen. So this is this is how I come in the press, and I give interviews and why Belgian fashion should change, because Belgian fashion is known all over the world about super cool, dark, deconstructive fashion, but we're nowhere an example in sustainability. So I really tried to change that, and this was I was explaining that in this interview, for example. Let's go to the next. So, of course, we have the sustainability part, but for me, sustainability shouldn't be your unique selling point, because for me, it's a normality to have sustainability in your business model. So what my unique selling point actually is my industrial mind in the fashion industry. So I see the female body as a mold, and I try to construct the textiles over it in a way that it really flattens some area it really makes it more beautiful or more comfortable. Some people like to have covered up this area or that area. Fashion should be more customizable as well. So for me, it's a very strange feeling or thought that one skirt fits all, and that a fixed form can fit everybody, and that clothes actually don't move with your body. So it's kind of, for me, it's really strange as an industrial designer that a form, a mold to the body, which extends throughout the day. Mostly with women, we have more fluent retrain, for example, and that you're like squeezed like a sausage, for example, in textiles. It's a very funny thought, actually. And for me, it's not logical, so I try to make a different approach to it. So, for example, of course, I'm too little, but there's like one stitch there, and if you make it more smaller on top, it will follow more with gravity, and then it will fit better around the hips. But if you're larger, then it will just fit as well. So it's like, this is my kind of way of thinking of how to construct garments. So it's lot of things are adaptable to the body. Yes, for me, how it should be. It's also non-seasonal, so the corona crisis has been a very remarkable time, which also reflects in that the traditional systems don't work anymore. I think it's in every kind of culture or business, but what's happened mostly in fashion is before you could just order 50 blouses in a production hall in Portugal. Now they don't do that anymore. They don't want to take risks anymore, which is completely understandable. But for small businesses like me, who can't produce 150 or 500 for one t-shirt, it's not an option. I don't have that reach yet to sell 500 t-shirts to one person, to one audience. It's very difficult to fill in the gap of producing on your own and to let the production flow. So there has to be something in between, and I've been doing on my own for way too long. So now I'm producing with local seamstresses, but they're very hard to find, they're hidden, it's not always so good, and it's super expensive to produce in Belgium. But I've managed it somehow anyway. But also the fun thing about it with having with the seamstress on your side is that I can produce what I want, whenever I want. I don't need to look at the seasons. If I want to produce a black dress tomorrow, it's completely possible, and that's nice. So I can really play into what people need at the moment right now, and not predict what they maybe need in 6 months, and if it's not working, then there's like then something is created which is not needed, and that's also a big problem, a big issue in the fashion industry. So locally produced at the moment, my business is fully circular, of course, which is like normal for sustainability, But for me, my opinion as an entrepreneur, and this is also something that I got from Copenhagen, when you're an entrepreneur and you create something, you should be responsible for it fully. It's not the client's responsibility to think about too much. They should think about it, but not too much. They're not busy with it. What they should do with my clothes when it's not working anymore. So it should be my responsibility to think like, okay, what happens before production, during wearing it, after it's not good anymore. It's my responsibility, and I make my business fully circular with circular services to take that responsibility. So it's fully circular. I have a custom design services. On a daily basis, I get mails from people like, can you make this in black? Can you make this in white? Can you make this in purple? Etc. And if I have the fabric, of course, it's possible. And of course, I have sustainable fabrics, high in quality and comfortableness. I don't know if you know the big designer called Lagerfeld, but he made like a very big statement that fashion shouldn't be comfortable. And for me, again, that's not an option. For me, it should be comfortable, because if comfortableness isn't happening at the moment, then the garments will be going to landfill after all, because you just don't like to wear it if it's not comfortable. So for me, I don't like to compromise. That's maybe my stubborn creativity-ness, but I don't like to compromise, so it should be sustainable in fabrics, in high quality and comfortableness. Most of let's say 80% of the businesses, they just choose one of these three topics, but I choose them all, and I don't compromise in it. Voila. So I try to also create multifunctionality garments. My seamstresses, they think I'm crazy, so I go with my designs to my seamstresses. For example, you have this kind of collar, and I say like, I want this collar to detach, and I want to wear it as a scarf. Like, I'm in a scarf kind of mood. I like to have a scarf in winter. And they look at me, and the first thing they always say, like, that's not possible. And I look at them, and I say, yes, it is possible. So I try to really challenge them. They also challenge me. And then this way, I always try to have more functionality in garments than just one item. But it should be nice to wear it in more different ways, to have it more longer in your closet during the years, etc. So it's kind of, I think it's a fun way of entrepreneuring. It makes it more exciting than just creating boring blazers. So voila. For so far, that's the funny thing. My brand is going well, but I haven't been using marketing for so far, not much, let's say. So it has been growing organically, and it's really strange, because when you see fashion brands starting, they just push marketing, and they grow really fast. But the amount of people of the community they collect, it's like a very small audience that really buys. And for me, it's the opposite. Like, I have a big audience, but 80% buys from it. So I have a very warm customer community. And this is a really good start. So, and it's because I just don't have the time for marketing, because it's a one-woman show, what I'm doing at the moment. And I've been sewing 14 hours a day almost, so there wasn't time for marketing. And marketing has been going around for me without my impact. So the press, for example, I had a lot of press, as I showed you. People talking mouth to mouth, people talking on events about me. This was really funny. Little side story. I was going on an event, a network event, and I joined a group, and people were talking about my brand, but they had no idea it was me, the designer of it. And I was thinking, like, should I tell these people that I'm the designer? Of course, luckily, they were talking positively about my brand. But yeah, it was really funny to see how things circulate in a very mouth-to-mouth way, and it was very nice. At the end, I told them, and we had to laugh. So yeah, okay, it was a fun story. But anyway, so I mostly sell online. I have an atelier, but it's very small, 16 square meter atelier, and people just come and fit there, and they see whatever is laying in the atelier, and they maybe buy it on extra, etc. But it's mostly e-commerce, and mostly through Instagram. Yeah, and for so far it has been a really great journey. But I can't wait to put the marketing aspects in my business or to activate it, and then really start to see remarkable growth, because organic growth means this way, and sometimes it's really good to have a push, which will happen in the next months. Yeah, I'll continue. This is also some designs. So the skirt is completely adaptable to your body. The suit a little bit less, but the suit has been a statement piece because it has been, yeah, you have seen it maybe all over the internet. People were sharing it. Some celebrities have been wearing it, and it was a really, yeah, I'm known for that suit actually. So basically, so. Does the perfect timing exist as an entrepreneur? Well, I would say yes, because if Corona wasn't here, then sustainability never was that important on the map. Because from 2018, when we were thinking about these beige, gray socks, like knitted socks, this was the kind of the vision we had about sustainability. If Corona wasn't there, then I think we never reached the point now of how important it should be. And I really felt like a feeling, a kind of, I would say suffocating feeling that something should like really change. For example, the locally produced supply chain in fashion industry. Like we have a lot of textile backgrounds, and yet we all go to all around Europe and even further to produce. So I try to fill in the gap, as I said before, like from starting to going in big production halls. I try to fill in the gap by working together with local seamstresses. Also, so we were thinking about the sustainable gray socks. Sustainability wasn't correlated to a very sexy term, or very, yeah, it was very boring. So I really needed it to be more feminine, more elegant. So I really tried to do that. For now, it's already a bit better, but yet still. The demand for masks, I think if those masks never existed, I would never started my brand in the last, for 10 years maybe. And the need in the field to do it differently. I saw so many fashion brands starting up around me before I even started, and for me it was all the same. They were all doing the same thing. It was a very traditional way, like the way was already written and they just had to follow it. And for me that wasn't kind of interesting entrepreneurship. It wasn't, of course it has its challenges, but for me it was more, yeah, I think I needed a bit more spice maybe, or a bit more challenge. So I really tried to do a different approach. I just really do it my own way, actually. And yes, of course, the realization that fast fashion often failed to embrace the unique body, as I told you before, of the story about the adaptable clothes. So I get really excited when I see this. So this is my strategy. This is, and I told you before, like my accountant really thinks I'm crazy in a good way. I'm a creative person, but I love numbers and I love systems. I really am obsessed with doing these things in a good way. So this is how I produce. You have the collection, so I really actually start like, okay, what do I like at the moment? Because people come to me for my unique approach, of course. But also, what do people like? I really ask my clients, like, what do you need at the moment? And I listen to them, and I try to push it through the collections. So this is how it goes, actually. It's just a really pre-order system, actually. It's very low risk. For a small entrepreneur like me, it's very important that there are not a lot of risk attached. Because if you fall, then you fall really, really hard. and it's good to fall enough, but just to be able to rise again. That's just enough. So I try to create collections based on, as I said, my preferences, how it can be adaptable, what the client needs. I'm actually a very consumer-based brand. And try to do it in a way to see, like, when I present the designs and then I present them to the clients, then I really, I try to read their body language, their reaction to it. Online I try to see if they're excited about it or not, and then I can kind of see, like, do I have to produce a lot of it? Do I have to produce small amounts of it? I really try to collaborate actually with my customer to see what I need to produce the most. So that actually explains the upper line. And before it even hits the e-commerce, most of my garments are already sold. And the leftovers actually go to retail stores in the future, or my showroom, atelier, or the clients. So what also has an impact of creating my designs is I have a lot of leftover fabrics. During the Corona time, when the supply chain was completely closed, the only fabrics that I could reach was or from old ladies that stopped sewing, or from brands, and they have like a lot of leftovers. So you have to imagine that when they make, for example, 100 shirts, maybe 200 meters of fabric is produced, and 100 meters of fabric is left aside, or maybe in the ocean, or being burned. And I asked to these companies to give these leftovers to me to create some garments with it. So I try to use materials that already exist. And so, most of the time I make bespoke or customized designs with it. And if I see that it goes really well, or if it's sold directly, then I know that I have to put it in the collection in another material. So also my design way of thinking is kind of circular. So I also try to do a lot of unique designs. I have a lot of wedding clients, for example. And this is the circular part, that repair and upcycle system, and the second hand. So people, you all know Vinted, I think, right? So my garments, you can't sell them on Vinted because it's too expensive. On Vinted, you can sell your garments for 2 euros, for 20 euros, but you can't sell your garments for 200 euros. You don't have a success. So I introduced my clients, like, you can bring your garments in my office, and I can sell them to the clients that come in my office, that have an appointment, and in exchange for a coupon. This way, I have actually full control of my garments, even after use. Okay, so what's next? So I've been talking a lot. I have to wrap around. Yeah, okay. So what's next is actually I have finally the funds to scale up big, and I have my work divided with seamstresses, so I don't have to sew everything myself anymore, which is very nice. So now I finally the time to put my creative mind in marketing and business. So the entire plan is figured out, and it's gonna start in January. But actually what I want to do, what I really look forward to, is to create my unique approach in a physical environment, and then I want to create a heterotopia. It's actually a place where you forget time, for example, a cemetery or a roller coasting park. When people come in my atelier, they always have the same feeling already right now, like they don't forget the time, but I really want to create a more obvious space. And of course, I need to scale up because there is a demand, but I can't follow the demand. So the demand is bigger than the demand is bigger than what I can offer, which is a good thing, but I have to follow through, and I want to remain my connection with Copenhagen more stable. So I'm trying to find a way to get creatives in touch with businesses. And yeah, for the rest, there are lots of plans coming. I'm a full around entrepreneur, creative person, so I believe that there are many things for me in the future. But for now, it already has been a very exciting journey. So this is the things I've learned of course I've learned many things every day is a lesson, but these are like the main things that has helped me get through the entrepreneurial journey. And I think that was it. Yes, that was it. Thank you so much for listening.